guest has 6 top 10 Canadian songs, 12 Juno Award nominations, 4 platinum albums, 3 gold albums, and 1 gold single in his solo career alone. He has also been the singer and piano player for the band Styx for the past 20 years. My mom took me to see one of his solo concerts last fall, and my mind was blown. The energy, the interaction with the crowd, and the show itself was absolutely amazing. Check this out.
You're a strange animal, that's what I know. But you're a strange animal, I got to follow. A criminal mind is all I've ever had. High fashion model magazines, runways of ageless beauty queens. Everything for the girl next door. These moonlight desires want me. They want me. They want me. These moonlight desires want me. You're sending.
It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you Lawrence Gowan.
Hello, Kyle. It's great to be here. It's great to be here in the debut interview.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
good,
too.
man.
Okay, so tell me about yourself. Who is Lawrence Gowan? What drives him?
I'm a musician, first and foremost, and I wanted to be that ever since I was a kid, younger than you. And that's really been the driving force in my life. You know, I just wanted to do exactly what I'm getting to do. I'm a fortunate person in that I get to do what I've always wanted to do. So that's really what drives me. I love what music does to people. I love how it affects people, how it stays with them. If that you can put a melody in their head and they begin to perceive it in their own manner, and for life, more or less, they relate you to that melody, and that melody is related to you, and that's the bond that you wind up having with an audience. And you'll see tonight that that's what I really enjoy, is playing music for people and seeing how it affects them and how their reaction affects me.
Okay, so what do you think you would be doing if you hadn't become a musician?
I'd be an astronaut, no question, if not an NHL hockey player, maybe both.
An astronaut or a hockey player in space?
Man, I would have the most amazing shot. I can tell you that. I'd finally be able to really knock that thing a long distance. Yeah, I have no idea what I'd be doing. I can really make a really good cappuccino, so I think Starbucks or Second Cup might be interested.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what point did you realize that you had really broken through to the industry?
That's a great question. What happened for me, the moment I knew something great was going to happen, this is an astounding moment in my life. I was fortunate enough, my first album did not do well, okay, but I'd seen enough reaction from playing in clubs from people that I thought, well, I know I've got something musically to offer, but I'm not sure. And when my first album failed to make the charts, I thought maybe I don't. But my second attempt wound up being Strange Animal, which was a triple platinum album in Canada, and it won the Juno Award for the best video of the year with A Criminal Mind. And while we were making that record, an astounding thing happened. First of all, we got to make the record in England. And my heroes have always been and still are the Beatles. It so happens that we made that album in Ringo Starr's home, the drummer from the Beatles, okay? His kitchen was right where that door is there. That was the kitchen door, and the studio is kind of like this dressing room here. Pardon me. And towards the end of the making of that record, we were in his house for about 4 or 5 months, you know, from February until like June. He came in one day, and he'd come in many, many times and said, "Yeah, that sounds good," or this, or, you know, joking around. But he came in just towards the end of the record, and he said to me, straight at me, he said, "You know, I was saying, you know, your record sounds good. It sounds really good." And the moment he said that, I just thought, for him, after the music that he has listened to come to life in the studio, for him to even make that comment just gave me a moment of confidence where I thought, this is going to connect with some people. There are going to be people who like this. I couldn't predict what numbers or where they'd be from, or any of that, but I knew there's something here that is going to affect people the way I want them to be affected. And that's when I felt I turned a corner.
Okay. So you have an insane amount of energy. I'm 13, and honestly, if I were to do the same show that you do, I would pass out halfway through. How do you keep your energy up for so long?
An audience, being in front of an audience is very energizing. That happens for sure. I keep myself in decent enough shape, I suppose, and I do this so often that you learn to kind of focus your energy. You know, much like acting, you know, you regulate how much energy every scene needs, and what, you know, and you get the little moments where you can kind of have a little respite from that and relax a little bit and then ramp it up again. And that's that, plus there's this thing that happens called adrenaline. I'm sure you've experienced it many times. And adrenaline is this supercharged fuel that the human body produces, and you can really tap into that. At the same time, you have to somehow mentally keep it under control, because you can spin off the planet if you're not careful. Yeah.
So your videos are insane. Do you have creative say when you film them?
When we did the videos in the 80s, and my very first video on my first album that didn't do well, I didn't have any say in that one. So I basically followed instructions. But much like what you're doing right now, I wanted to voice my own opinion on things and how I thought they should, how the song would be best represented on TV. Now, when you look at the videos today, they look very antiquated because they're from the 1980s. But at the time, they really were kind of at the forefront, at the vanguard of what videos could be. So with A Criminal Mind, we had, that was the first one we made for the Strange Animal album. I was able to write out the storyboard and work with really good people who understood. There was a director named Rob Quartley, and his whole team understood what it was I was trying to have happen. And they made it happen. One of the chief things I wanted to happen was animation to be in the video. I wanted somehow that the darkness of the song had this balance to it, because there was this animated character. So you didn't quite know whether to take it seriously or not, and that opened it up to all ages. So that's kind of how I influenced that one.
Okay, yeah. That video definitely, there's it's almost, there's two ways to look at it. Really?
Right.
Yeah. There's taking it seriously, and then there's seeing it as a cartoon.
Correct. And
you can do both at the same time with the video, and it's extremely well done in that sense.
Thank you. I'm really glad you took that from me, because I've had the serious side of it, and at the same time, I've had people go, they're more enamored with or you know, in love with it. What's that goop that they pour all over? You know, like it's pancake batter. But anyway.
I had that question. I was going to ask what that was. I thought it was pancake batter.
Ask that question. Are you curious about anything in that video?
Yes. What was it that they dumped on you?
That was good old pancake batter. Yeah. Well, we wanted it to look like cement, because the metaphor was a hardened criminal. They don't do this to hardened criminals. It's just a hardened criminal. And that was, you know, the metaphor we were going for. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your outfits as well are extremely creative and crazy. I mean, the blue jacket that you wear with Styx, the kilt that you wear, you've got some super awesome high tops. Do you have the same designer throughout, like, from when you started to now?
Great question. No, but I work with various people who I'll just see some of what they do and fall in love with it. So that sometimes they're designers. Like for years I wore, you know, things that were done by Versace, or, you know, I've got coats now that are done by like D Squared, or various designers, right? But usually I try to find a way to personalize them. So the blue outfit that you're talking about recently, which I wore for the Mission for a Styx album, that was just a jacket that I saw online. It wasn't a very expensive jacket, but then I outfitted it with those patches, and basically to make it look like a Star Trek kind of an outfit,
okay,
you know, to give it that kind of feeling. And so that one I kind of had an influence on that. Sometimes I'll just see someone who's done something really eye-catching. there's a jacket I have that's covered in 1,000 patches, for example. And that was a lady in Los Angeles that had that in her store, and it was just sitting there and it fit me, and I went, that's going to be eye-catching on stage. And I started doing the kilt in my solo shows, mainly because there's so many pictures online, right, of your shows, that I thought, how are people going to quickly know that this is a solo show, not a Styx show, other than seeing Big Gowan behind the band or Styx. If you couldn't see that in the shot, if you see me in a kilt, that's a solo show, and if you see me in the outfits, yeah. So that's the easiest way, because everyone has a camera at the show, and they're all clicking away, and they put their pictures online, and so there you go.
That makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
When you're creating a song, how do you do the music first or the lyrics?
Most often, I would say 95% of the time, the melody comes first. I hang everything on the melody.
Okay.
Once I feel like, oh, that's a catchy thing that I'm remembering it, I can't get it out of my head, or I don't make it up, don't listen to it for a couple of days, listen back to it, and I suddenly go, oh, that's sticking in my head now. I'll start to try to find words that I can weave around that melody that reflect what the melody is saying.
Okay.
But the funny thing is, eventually I think it's the words that superseded, and the melody is carrying the words, right? But at first when I'm writing it, I'm making the words kind of stay with the melody. So that's a tiny bit of my method, if I have one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, is there a song that you thought was going to do really good but didn't, or vice versa?
Yeah, definitely. I thought "Keep Up the Fight," which is the kind of the title track to the first album. I absolutely thought that is going to rock it up, and my life is going to change. And boy, was I wrong. But I love playing the song still. If you talk about the energy of that song is still really gets me. You know what I mean? I enjoy it. You'll see us play it tonight, and I enjoy it. I even though it wasn't a hit. So yes.
Okay.
Is the short answer.
Have you noticed at all a difference between the fans in your solo concerts and when you're with Styx?
Wow, I've never been asked that. Well, for the most part, the people that know the nation that knows my solo work the most is Canada, right? Because I grew up here, and but I don't take any blood tests before people come in and find out who's Canadian. No, as if a blood test could ever reveal that. No, I'd say there's no real difference. It's actually, I do know how to answer that. Since we tour the world with Styx, I've seen audiences in Japan, Sweden, America, Canada, and it's amazing how different they are at the beginning of a show. Some audiences are more kind of reluctant to kind of show you their emotions in the first half of the show. Some audiences explode right off the bat. American audiences tend to do that for the most part. They let you know how they're feeling about things right away. Audiences in Japan seem very reserved at first, right? But what's funny to me is wherever I play, and tonight I'm hoping will be the same result. By the end of the night, it's amazing how alike audiences are around the world. And it's my own camera angle. I've seen this music is one of the greatest, to my estimation, is the greatest bonding thing that exists. Because I really feel the unity of humanity in just how emotionally people let themselves go at the end of a concert, and what their faces are, their expressions, etc. And it makes me think like, oh, this audience here in this half of the world is exactly like that when they're exactly, because emotionally we've reached the same point. And so no, there's really no difference ultimately.
Okay.
Yeah.
You travel a lot, like a lot.
I'm usually moving, yes.
Is there a place that you visited that stands out more than others?
I really love Japan, quite honestly, because it was so different from growing up. My kids were small, so I wound up going back there after we toured there, and we had a vacation there. It was one of our greatest memories. I love going to Scotland because I was born there. That always feels like I'm, you kind of project this, but I feel like I'm in touch with my the ground I came from, so to speak. So I love going there. We're going to England this year. We're playing in London. I love going to Liverpool because the Beatles are from there. Boy, I usually find a way to fall in love with every place I go, even if the place is not, you know, a high marquee value place. You know, there are places, particularly in Canada and the United States, that aren't the cities that you'd mention right off the bat.
Yeah.
But for example, you know, I love going to St. John's, Newfoundland. I haven't been there in a long time, and I'm really missing it. You know, I really love going to Quebec City, but I like going to the other cities in Quebec. We played in Drummondville the other night.
Yeah.
I love Drummondville now. So, you know, it's like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something that has changed a lot since you started and now is social media.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Well, I know it's a necessary tool. Basically, it's like I wouldn't have met you if it weren't for that.
That's true.
Right? It would have had to go through all kinds of a chain of all kinds of people before I realized, you know, who you were, and was able quickly to find out that, oh, this guy is who he says he is, and we're going to do this thing together. So I'm going to be on a show. So yeah, social media has completely altered everything about, really everything about life on the planet as far as communications go.
Yeah.
The hardest thing in the 1980s and prior to the internet was to get a worldwide release for your record. It was a tough thing to do, especially coming from Canada. Several artists were able to accomplish it, but that was a chief goal. Today, you and I can make up a song right in this room, push send, and it just went around the world.
That's
Anyone
true.
has access
Yeah.
to it. I find that to be the most startling shift in my life, you know, and the quick connection with people. You know, we announced our show in Sweden this summer. Immediately I get messages from people in Sweden, can't wait to see you, and all this type of thing. And then quickly I'll go to Google Translate and get, you know, Swedish to English and say thanks to them back.
Yeah.
Tack. Yeah.
Okay, so are you planning on releasing more songs or albums?
Well, with Styx, I'm pretty sure we will, because the success of the mission has led us already to where we have new material. And for myself, I've been working on a solo record for a number of years, and it's just about at completion. And when I feel there's time to focus on promoting it, I will put it out.
Okay.
My next release is a comic book. I told you about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did watch a movie that you were in. Obviously, it wasn't kid friendly. I only watched your pieces of it.
I warned your mom.
Yeah. Yes, you did. You did. You did an incredible job.
I did?
Did you?
Wow.
Would you ever consider doing more film?
Can I be in your next picture? Yeah, I absolutely would. I had a lot of fun doing that, and doing videos in the 80s and 90s, particularly doing those videos. I got a tiny taste of what your life is like, as far as, you know, trying to bring to life this and make in some way make entertaining, you know, what you're doing, but, you know, playing around.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I've had a lot of fun. I've actually since that character Organo, I've done 2 other movies. One's called She Never Died. I don't have a speaking part, but I play the Grim Reaper. Always these horror movies.
Yeah.
And then this other one called Side Boob. It's about a guy who's kind of bases his life philosophy on a lot of the records that came out in the 80s. And he makes a big plea to a girl in a record store, a vinyl record store, about the album Great Dirty World, and how he says how Gowan and his philosophies, and he goes through the songs, he's naming the titles, kind of changed his life. So I appear to him as an apparition toward the end of the film as myself, and tell him that he's got to wake up. And anyway, I just ruined the end of the movie. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, now you don't have to go see it.
No, you don't. But yeah, I seem to be, yeah, so far horror is my genre.
Well, I mean, it happens to people.
It happens. Typecast already.
So,
Yeah.
Are you ever planning on bringing your mullet back?
My mullet, I mean, I miss it so much. No, not at all. A friend of mine from the U.S. He saw the video for Moonlight Desires just the other day, and I'd never heard this. I told you before, I'd never heard this term. He said, "Wow, what a Kentucky waterfall!" And I knew he meant that hairstyle. It's so associated with the 1980s that I now look upon it as it was a fashion statement at the time that I thought, oh yeah. But any fashion you look at 10, 20 years later kind of looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, I think my hair right now looks really happening. And in 20 years from now, I'm going to look at it and go, what was I thinking? Your hair's going to look great. Yeah.
I hope so.
It will.
Okay, I have one more question for you before we do the rest. If you could go back in time,
yes,
what advice would you give your 13-year-old self?
Yes. My advice would be careful with that mullet. You don't want to really go too far with it. No, I would say this. Really, what I've learned is that music is not going to let you down. Don't ever think that it's going to let you down. It will not. Even if you don't make it, you know, so to speak, whatever that, however you want to qualify that, there's something intrinsic to it that is going to enrich your life. So stay with it. And I encourage people that are not professional musicians to keep music close to their lives. I've witnessed in my own life where I see people that have let music slip away from their lives, and just how it ages them, but not in a good way. There's a good way to age, and people who keep music in their lives tend to age a lot better and tend to have better lives.
Okay.
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 So play those drums.
So let's pretend, yes, that I want to be a rock star.
Okay.
Let's go teach me something.
I will teach you a very unique thing.
Okay.
And I'm glad you got your running shoes on, because I can show you, you're going to need some good balance. And you're not afraid of smoke, are you? A bit of fog? Like volcanoes erupting around you?
No.
That's part of being a rock star. You're going to have to learn that if you're going to get anywhere.
Okay.
You want to do it?
Yeah, let's
go do it. So anyway, Kyle, this spinning stand is something that I conceived in around 1990 for a video called Lost Brotherhood. It had Alex Lifeson from Russia in it, and it was a great piece. But during that filming of that video, the idea of taking this on stage came up, and it's been with me ever since. So the key to it is learning to unlock it so that it begins to spin. And all you got to do is, if you stand back, I'm going to show you just basically the whole keyboard pivots. Ready? It's coming around. Watch yourself. There you go. And that's basically all it does. It's a one-trick wonder that goes two ways. So it's a two-trick wonder. And then for the big rock star moment, right? If you want to call it that, it comes like this. You put one foot on here, and you put one foot on here, and you stand up and you engage the people. So, you want to try that?
Sure.
All right. So, hang on. Let me get these ears off now. Just in case. I've never assisted anyone doing this before, so go ahead. Okay. One foot up. You good?
Yep.
Now stand. Yes, and I'll put that foot there. You got it. Stand like that. Raise both arms. They release the smoke. You are a rock god of Canadian stature. All right. Nicely done. I've never ever given a tutorial on that in my life before. You okay for coming down?
You want smoke? I can get smoke.
Hit a bit of smoke. Hit a moment of smoke. Right? Do it again.
Then you got to sing something.
You got lots of energy.
Yeah, babe. Yes, caller. Ready?
And now hit the smoke. Ready? Go.
Stand by.
Oh my God! Whoa! Touch me. Heal me. All right.
Bob, yes, sir. Okay.
Okay. Next thing is,
I thought you were going to be in the line.
come over here, Janice. When you've got the mic in your hands, right, it's a good thing as you're singing to go up and see somebody you know, point right at like that, right? I actually learned that from Mike Myers. Mike Myers was doing what you can point at somebody you know. There's Janice right there. So take this.
Okay.
Yeah. Just say you're a strange animal.
Sure.
And then just point at somebody you know that would fit that description. Go. Point. Do it. Do it with authority. Do it right.
You.
That's it.
You.
And then
You too. Person watching this? Yes, you.
Give him the intense gaze. Don't mess with Kyle. That's it.